enemy. You better watch out if your enemies. A road ahead of full prophecy to be the greatest beast the world has ever seen. I feed him every day like the bones clean. I feed him all the hate and he grows me. And he gets caught real big, pissed off quick. And if you cross him, you might drop dead. Metaphorically, of course, settling the score. Never getting bored, lots of blood and gore. Always wanting more freedom from the source. They don't really understand until they feel the force of blood in. If you start shit, you be heartless in the darkness. Torn apart quick, you let scars rip. You be chewed up and discarded. And this world ain't right, won't accept it. Negative energy, I expect it. Once it's in your mind, it's infectious. So fight for your life and reject it. You better give me...
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Tuesday night episode of the VOR podcast. And man, do we have a very special episode for you guys tonight. I'm sure most of you have heard about the lawsuits that are moving forward in Pennsylvania and I believe other states as well. We'll get more information on that to be sure. Regarding some possible irregularities, we'll call them, regarding the 2024 election, especially in Pennsylvania. And Mike and I have always been skeptics. While we've come to terms with the results of the election, we have never fully understood how in the living hell Donald Trump got reelected.
That's a good way
to put it. Especially won all 7 swing states. Again, we were told to not believe our own eyes. We saw Donald Trump's empty rally. We just saw Donald Trump's extremely empty parade. And
the squeaky wheel parade.
Yeah, right.
I love
and
it
we
so
saw
much.
the massive crowds that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz were pulling in towards the end there. But we were made to believe that somehow, some way, Donald Trump managed to pull off this miracle win. And again, we've always been skeptical. One of the main reasons we've been skeptical is the down ballot voting. Okay. There are a lot of instances where Donald Trump won the state, but then Democrats all won down ballot. I don't know of any MAGA that would vote for Donald Trump and then Democrats. And I damn sure don't know any Democrat that would vote. I don't know any personally that would vote for Donald Trump. So it's always kind of bothered us.
John Fetterman, he's on the fence now. That's your boy.
No,
you did that.
No,
Thanks.
I know I voted for him and I truly regret my decision. I really do. But the reason we are all here tonight, and I just realized we already have 78 viewers in our stream. So I'm a little freaked out now. Yeah, I don't need your votes, right?
This is a good comment. Yeah. We call it face sticking.
Yeah, don't worry about coming out and voting, he says. We already have enough votes, he said.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, the whole reason we are here is because of a young lady named Brandy, who I first found on TikTok. And she was making videos regarding something called the Election Truth Alliance, which I knew nothing about. But the videos she made were very informative. And the more I looked into it, the more I started to I always believed what she said just because she brought receipts with her. But the more intensely I watched her videos and the more intensely I started watching some of these lawsuits. But there are so many nuances to it and there's so much detail involved.
Wait,
I invited her on the show to talk about it.
So what you're saying is that you thought something was interesting. You heard about it. You saw someone talking about it. Then you did some research and then you reached out to that person. And now tonight we have, I'm going to use the word experts. I know they're going to disagree, but we have people that know more than us to explain it to us. See how simple that is?
Right. So she is the reason why we have our additional 2 guests. She was nice enough to offer us an opportunity to talk to somebody from both the Election Truth Alliance and Smart Elections. Probably a name that you're very familiar with if you've seen any of the recent headlines, especially the Newsweek article claiming that, hey, maybe Kamala Harris did win the election. We don't know. Regardless, though, let me first bring on to the show for the very first time and be nice to her because there's her very first podcast. She does videos all the time on YouTube, but we are fortunate enough to have her for her very first time on a podcast. Welcome to the show, Brandy. How are you?
I'm good. Hi, it's good to be here with you guys. I'm super excited.
Yay.
So have you before, because I've only known you from your videos regarding like the Election Truth Alliance and all that stuff. Have you always been politically motivated or is this something new that you've gotten into or?
So I've always been very opinionated. I'll put that out there.
We have that problem.
Did not like Donald Trump since his first run at the office. I didn't like anything he did. So just watching him lose in 2020, that made sense, like after how he ran things. And then to see him get like back into the swing and be able to be elected again and watch him get elected after all the things that had come out and seeing the way people were talking, it didn't make sense to me. So
It didn't.
I just started doing my own research. I came across the ETA and like elections. And I also just want to say really quick to everyone, I apologize if I call them tests or start talking in like random code, because I have like trained my brain
It's
to say it
TikTok
that way
code.
from TikTok. So I
Yep.
mean election and voting if I accidentally say the word test.
That's so
Right.
funny.
No, seriously, you will have video suppressed if you use the wrong word on TikTok. It happens to me all the time, but I tend to just kind of fly off at the mouth sometimes too. So it's understandable. Some of this stuff makes me so angry that I just kind of, I lead with my emotions in a lot of my videos. So, but no, your videos are extremely informative. They seem to be very well prepared, and you obviously know what you're talking about. So you've obviously done the research.
Yeah, like
So
you guys
how?
said, oops, sorry. It's
No,
finding
go
out
ahead. Go ahead.
something, it's being interested about it, and it's doing your own research. That's what I tell everyone to do.
Yeah.
Like, here's my opinion, but you should look it up and look into it for yourself, because you should form your own opinion on this information, but
Right.
read the information first.
I think
please-
oh, go ahead, Jeremy.
Oh, I just want to say, please tell everybody that Facebook and Twitter do not count as research.
No, go to their websites at least. Yeah.
Other places.
So that almost kind of dovetails to what I was going to say quickly is I am continually, I know, surprised at the intellectual stagnation from a certain side of this struggle we're on right now. People that don't look for challenged viewpoints, don't look to try and understand why they think what they think, why they believe what they believe, and they just go to echo chambers like Facebook, like Twitter, and I will always dead name Twitter. Okay. They don't want to be told they're wrong. They can't handle being told they're wrong, when I think I'll just say our side of things, the side of reason, the side of learning, is interested to know the truth of things. And if we're wrong, we want to better ourselves and correct our opinions. And I think that comes to the heart of what you're doing is as you're learning information, you're spreading that truth. And it's for other people to listen to what you say and do the research. And then that reinforces the truth as it's passed along.
Yeah, that and like the numbers don't lie. The numbers and the data. Like neither of these two organizations have the solid proof they want, which is like what my goal is for them both. Like with getting this out there, I want them to get access to the paper ballots and be able to verify this. But my goal, like I said, it was just to get this information out there so that people knew about it and could see this and do the research and get the information for themselves.
Yep.
Right. And I think it's fair to say that if there was some irregularities, we should at least know about it and be aware of it so we can prevent it in the future.
And what's the harm in checking? What's
right.
the harm in checking?
The
And
laziness people have not to even just check. Like if you see something on Facebook that's like, man, the sky is green and elephants actually speak Greek, just
oh my God.
check that. Just
That's
check
like
it.
that's like the video on TikTok, not to change the subject at all, but it kind of goes with this, of the girl that said like if you save a quarter a day for a year, you're gonna save $10,000, and people were like, oh my God, yeah.
Do the math.
Yep.
Do the math.
Yeah. So, okay, let's get into it. If you would, Brandy, be nice enough to introduce our two newest guests to the show.
Yeah, so I have with me today, I brought Lulu Frysat from Smart Elections. So she will probably talk about what they're doing because she's going to be able to talk about that a lot better than I can. And I also brought Lily McGregor from the Election Truth Alliance, and she's also going to speak on what they are doing. But both of them have a lot of information, and I really hope that you guys listen to it because I think that this is super important.
I agree as well. So welcome to the show again. Also for the first time, Lulu and Lily. How is everybody? Let me go to the. Oh, sorry, wrong view. Let me go to this view real quick.
We're getting dizzy.
No, it's okay. Too many buttons to click. It happens.
There are too many buttons.
I just want to have
everyone.
How's everybody doing today?
Great to be with you. Doing well. How are you?
Good. A little stressed. You know, the world is kind of seemed like it's burning around us.
I can't stop. I have to doom scroll for this.
Quite honestly, the most incompetent administration in world history at the helm to lead us through all this. So it is a little bit of scary times. So I'm hoping you can bring a little bit of sunshine on my day with some hard data points that we can discuss and share with our viewers so they can, again, we're not telling you what to believe. We're just presenting data and then you can make a determination for yourself. That's what we try to do.
And like at least a third grade basic grasp of how math works. That's it. That's all we ask.
All right, so I guess we'll start with who wants to start first. I guess we'll start with Lily.
Well,
Lily,
oh yeah, go
what
ahead,
do you
sir.
want?
Nope.
No, I was going to say, Lily, if you would, why don't you give us a little background on yourself and how you got into, I guess, this path that you've taken now?
For sure. Hi, everyone. It's great to be with you. I'm Lily McGregor. Generally speaking, my co-founder, Nathan, is the one who is in most of the videos, but he is away this week. And so I am stepping into those shoes.
Nice.
So thank you. My background is political science and history, as well as policy development. In my real world life, I work in government and policy development. I'm in Canada. I'm Canadian. I'm not an American, but I have always been. I love my country. Love my country a great deal, but it has been since the months that followed the U.S. presidential election. Really, for me, the beginning of becoming very interested in this topic was a letter written by a number of cybersecurity experts at Free Speech for People, which discussed and flagged the number of significant security breaches that had occurred with election equipment since 2020. I believe referred to in their letter as the most significant security breach in elections that we know of, and that this has sort of become very memory hold. And so for me, that was the instigator to kind of start to look in further into the 2024 results, really mostly to reassure myself. It was a bit of I'll look into this more. I want to look at the data, and the more I look, I'm sure I'll feel better. And the opposite of that happened. The more that I looked, the more that I looked into what the data was showing and what was there, the more concerned I got. Ended up connecting with two other individuals, Nathan and Jive, and we kind of came to the conclusion that we had been hoping for recounts of paper ballots to affirm and verify the vote. That didn't happen. And when it didn't, we felt that, Smart Elections was out there doing this incredible work, but there were, not as many people in the space as we'd hoped that there would be. And so we thought that it would be a good idea for us to, join hands together. One organization cannot do it all, no matter how great and excellent they are and the great work that they're doing. And so we formed the Election Truth Alliance. We started in January, and we have been sprinting ever since. And my role is Executive Director of Communications and Operations, which just means how we talk about what we talk about, and then how we do the crunchy stuff of what we do. And I'll stop there.
The crunchy stuff.
Nice.
I love it.
Lulu, your turn. Again, welcome to the show for the first time. I appreciate your time. What can you tell us about yourself and how you got to this point?
Wow, thanks so much for being here, Lily. That was fascinating. I'm really pleased to hear more about the background about your work, and also really interested to learn more about your work as a political scientist. Because one of the things in our conversations with statisticians is we keep going back and forth with them about whether or not there are political science explanations for the results. And so I'm actually I didn't know that you're a political scientist, so I would love to dive into that with you a little bit, maybe offline. So it's going to be useful.
In part 2 of the episode.
There we go.
Okay. So really pleased to be here with you, and congratulations on all of the strong work that Election Truth Alliance has been doing. So my name's Lulu Freistadt. I am the co-founder and executive director of Smart Elections. We've been around for about 5 years. We're a nonpartisan nonprofit. I will emphasize that we're nonpartisan. You're probably going to hear a lot of opinions on this broadcast and others about the present administration, and most of those are pretty partisan sentiments. When I say we're nonpartisan, we're really nonpartisan. We actually work with people across the political spectrum. And what's been fascinating, we've been at this for a long time, longer than I'd like to admit, but I filmed the first known hack of a US voting machine in 2007.
What?
That was by a graduate student at that time named J. Alex Halderman. He's currently one of the top experts on election security in the world now. But at the time, he was a graduate student at Princeton, and I went there as part of a documentary that I was filming, and I filmed him and his partner doing this hack of a voting machine that someone had literally passed off to them in a back alley. It was a US voting machine that was in use across the country at the time, and they hacked it without any difficulty, really. They jimmied the lock with just like a little,
Oh my God.
like a little Allen wrench, popped open the lock. I watched Alex do it. It took him like 3 seconds. He was like, that wasn't very hard.
It's
And
like a
then
porn movie.
Wow.
they had planted malware on the computer. We all voted on it. And then they printed out the results. Everything looked really normal. But then the computer printed out formal results, which were different than what we had voted for. And they've actually done that demonstration like multiple times. They've done it on television. They've done it for films. And it's a classic hack that they have. Everybody votes for George Washington, and then the other candidate is Benedict Arnold. And when they printed out the results, Benedict Arnold had won the race.
Apt.
And
That's crazy.
I still to this day remember the feeling when I watched the tape come out. And you can actually watch this clip on my production website. I'll put it in the chat. The film is called Holler Back, Not Voting in an American Town. And
Of course I don't have a pen.
I all of a sudden just kind of, I'll throw it in the chat. I felt like the ground kind of opened up underneath me, and I went, oh, if that's possible, then that really changes everything. If the people that we're voting for are possibly, if the people that are winning the race are possibly not the people that we voted for, that would be
That's
a
a
very
problem.
different country than the one that we're living in. And since that time, I've devoted most of my time to trying to improve election security. And the more I looked into it, the more I found that it was really just frighteningly poor. I wound up going to DEF CON, which is the largest hackers conference in the world. And I went 3 years in a row where they had what was called a voting village, where they had voting equipment, and all of the voting equipment every year would be hacked and these were people not even necessarily, sometimes they had top hackers there, but I also watched people with very little experience, like high school students, completely take over voting machines.
Like people who might have a
gotta-
job in Doge.
I would be so fascinated with this.
Again, that's a leading question. I'm not going to
There's
expect you
links in the
to.
chat. This is all stuff that's online. You can see the investigations that I did. I was an election security journalist, and I filmed these.
Wow.
I filmed these different DEF CON conferences, and those were run on a media outlet called Now This that a lot of people know. They do a lot of progressive media.
I follow him.
Those videos got about 4 million views, and seemed like they were getting traction. But what I found was that it didn't seem to matter how many people became aware of the issue or how much sort of coverage we got. Nothing changed. Things weren't changing. The security on the voting machines wasn't getting any better. The audits weren't getting any better. Legislation wasn't being passed to mandate hand-marked paper ballots, which is what experts recommend. And, in addition to voting machines for voters with disabilities, we should always have hand-marked paper ballots for people who are able to fill out a ballot with a pen. And that just isn't happening all over the country. There's actually places where people vote in completely computerized systems, like in Nevada and Louisiana. So what I found was that I didn't feel like I was having the impact that I wanted to have. And so that was why we founded Smart Elections. I joined with 2 colleagues that I had known for years, and I shifted from journalism into advocacy. And since that time, we've done a number of things. We've really tried to educate the public about this. We've challenged a number of elections. As you know, now we have 2 lawsuits that are in the courts. And then we also do election protection, and we've developed a unique election protection system that no one else has developed, where we actually train poll watchers in how to go into a polling place and collect data, check the number of voters who have signed in on the electronic poll books, check the number of ballots that have been scanned,
Simple
photographs
stuff.
of the poll tapes, check the chain of custody, the seals, things like that, check accessibility. And we have a form where people put everything in. And that's one of our actual top priorities now, is to spread that election protection program across the entire country. And we have a really wonderful opportunity right now. I'll wrap up with this. New York City has a primary right now for the mayor, and it is
Oh, yes, we do.
extremely competitive. People like Mario Cuomo, who has been known to play a little dirty sometimes, and there's other candidates in the race, and we really would like it to be a fair race. And so if you are in New York City, please do go to our website, smartelections.us, and sign up to do election protection. The early voting has already started, and so we are already training people, and you can reach out to us there and just sign up. There's a I'll make sure that there's we actually completed training Monday and Tuesday night, but I'll put a new form up so people can sign up. So please do sign up.
Okay, and just so everybody knows real quick, I do have both of your websites in the description of this video. So if you're interested in receiving or finding any more information on all this, as well as donation information, because they are both nonprofits and donations are tax deductible. So please help fund this cause. This is about as noble as a cause as you can get in America.
Comes to the core of democracy. If you're gonna,
right, this is literally,
it's literally the core of our democracy.
Right, because if this can happen once, it can happen again. Because Mike and I have always said that these folks act like they're never going to lose again, and that bothers me.
Said as such. I mean,
you know what I mean?
They've been telling us this last year and a half leading up to the election that they kind of knew they were going to win, that they kind of expected that they just had to get over this hump, and then everything would be smooth sailing for the future. Mm-hmm. So again, we know everything that bad people do, they telegraph, they project, and maybe this is just one more example of it. But I think what I'm hearing so far is that along with many of the problems on, let's just say, a progressive-minded side, because I know we're going to be leaning towards not a partisan viewpoint, but we're going to speak it real from our perspective. There's two sides to this, and one side is looking for a way forward. One side's looking for a way back. Mm-hmm. The way back has great rhetoric, great ways to get people to the heartstrings, to have them turn their brain off and make them feel like they need to move backward and protect the old ways. How do you make numbers sexy? And I hate to use that phrase because it's so stupid, but like, we're at a point now where we have a reality show president. How do we get people to listen to numbers? How do we get people to look at the facts, right? Like you both said, the facts don't lie. So Brandy, this actually comes to kind of, I think, where you're influential in that you look what they're doing and you find a way to bring it to your viewers. So like, how do you find a way to get people interested in numbers and facts? Because a lot of people aren't.
I mean, I just think a lot of it is people care about this and they want something to be done. When I'm like talking about these numbers, like I'm a lot of the times just reading articles that people have published. Like I've read the Election Truth Alliance's articles on like TikTok. And when you're just sitting there, like the one, something just came out today with, like I said, Dr. Walter Mebane. They're talking about like potentially 220,000 like altered, like manipulated, manufactured, whatever, what have you, votes in Pennsylvania that are not kosher. Like how could that not bother someone? How can you sit there and be like 220,000 people chose one person and it possibly went away or went to somewhere else? Yeah. Like how is that not bothersome?
I don't know. It's the same as all these other little things. How do people not just see the clear reality of fact? I don't know, but I guess when you're so obsessed with that cocoon you put around yourself, or the cage you allow yourself to be put in, you don't want to hear facts that will change your opinion and scare you into realizing you've been duped.
I think
Go ahead.
It's really important. Brandy brought up Dr. Mebane's report, and I would just love to emphasize that because most people probably have no idea who Dr. Walter Mebane is, but he is one of the leading statistical experts in the country. I believe he's at the University of Michigan.
Yep.
And he has come out now with a report, and Lily will be able to speak about this much better than me. The Election Truth Alliance is working, collaborating with him. But Lily, why don't you tell people a little bit of what Dr. Mebane's report has said, because it's really remarkable. I have never seen an academic statistician actually come forward and say he thought that there had been fraud in a U.S. elections. This is really a milestone. It's remarkable.
Absolutely. And I'll add that these are dense reports. So the content,
hard to read.
They're hard to read. They are complex. It's the kind of thing where we have multiple data analysts and statisticians on our team, and we will run these reports past 5, 6, 7, 8 of them to make sure we have come to both an understanding about what's been shared out, in addition to speaking to Dr. Mebane about what it was his intent when he was writing things out. So I'll briefly just say that the reason we got in touch with Dr. Mebane was because we were a little confused at why we were seeing some things in the data, and that we knew that there were these experts out there, including in the United States, and we were wondering why, like what's kept them from coming in and sharing this before we did? Like, how do we be the ones that sort of wandered out and got that information? And maybe are we missing something? And so we wanted to reach out to him to confirm that our analysis was not totally off base. We wanted his expert eyes, and he was very generous with his time, and a very enthusiastic man who is, deeply cares about elections, has spoken internationally regarding his method of analyzing elections for concerns in many countries, and who is very excited to talk about the thing he's interested in. So
I love
we had
a kind academic.
Oh, me too. So he emails like a university professor, and I say that in the most absolutely loving way, the best. And so he was very generous with his time, and we discussed Pennsylvania at the time. We had released our 3 counties analysis of Pennsylvania data of Philadelphia, Allegheny, and Erie counties. And so he had reviewed our report, and then indicated he would be interested in running the data himself, because like any good academic, he's not going to trust what we're putting in front of him. He wants to do it himself. He wants to crunch the numbers himself. Give me the original source data. Let me see it for myself.
Repeat the experiment.
Exactly.
Right? Scientific method.
Exactly. And I'll say that, to be clear, when we first met and talked with him, he was skeptical. He did not come in saying, like, as he should be, skepticism is healthy. It's a good thing. And we said, absolutely no problem. The nice thing about when the data speaks for itself is that you don't have to do a lot of explaining for it, except to translate what it means, because you can just give it to someone and they will, here's the original source on the state and county website. Go for it. And he dove in. And when he shared that first report out, that was on the 3 counties in Pennsylvania. And now, in addition to that, because that was just 3 counties, he has followed up with another report of, because what he saw in those 3 counties was interesting enough that he said, I want to look at the whole state. And so he went and has looked at all of the 67 counties, the data that is there, and has now come out with a report that indicates, he provides several ranges of confidence. So like any good academic, he's not saying, it is exactly this number that is going to be that, like, that would be outrageous. He's provides several.
Got to be careful with the language and the claims.
Careful.
Could you walk us through his findings a little bit? I know I'm really interested.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that you are, Lulu. I love it. Like we're geeking out in live time here. I would say that his findings were he uses a method called e-forensics. And that is short for election forensics. And that is the term that I didn't know when I came into this work of looking at those election results and seeing what you find in them. And what he saw and found was indicators that there were, he uses a term called malevolent distortion of voters' intention. And he makes clear he has a different paper where he really gets into what that methodology is and what that term means. And what he makes clear is this is not about like an error. It's not about mistakes in process. It is about like, it is a malevolent intentional distortion of a voter's intent. Yeah, of their intent.
That's getting towards crime language.
And he, it's very carefully chosen language. And what he does say in another one of his papers where he really gets into the methodology is that that he would say that these malevolent distortions are often, you can have actions that are taken by dictators in authoritarian countries would often count as this. So if we think about Russia, we think about Georgia, we think about situations where where there has been the intention, whether it's stuffing handfuls of physical ballots into ballot boxes, or erroneously reporting results, and it's making it so that what is being reported is not reflective in some way of what those votes were when they were cast. And he provides a couple of different ranges of confidence. And what I thought was really interesting, a couple things about this is that he doesn't say up to. There's not an up to language. That was something that when we were reporting out on our press release, we had to keep on pulling out up to, because people would understandably say, up to 225,000 votes. And we had to say, he actually doesn't say up to, he just says possibly this many impacted.
There is a different connotation.
So
there is.
What's the maximum? He's saying there was 220,000?
He doesn't even say maximum. He just says possibly 225,000 is his high range, and then his low range.
And what's the margin of victory in Pennsylvania?
121,000.
Huge. So what's the low range? What's the low range?
And what's really interesting is that for that first 3 counties analysis, one of my statisticians explained to me that the interesting thing about the difference between these reports is that in the first one he said, well, it could be this many, but it could also be nothing. He doesn't have the it could also be nothing in the same kind of way in the second report. He basically says minimum 25,000 that he believes would be. He hasn't used the word minimum. I don't want to use wrong words, put those in his mouth. But it's that range of 25K to 225K approximately.
Right.
And what
but even
he
if
says
it's
there is that the language he uses is it's a close call, no matter what his range is about whether this election was decided by the voters or by malevolent distortion of their intentions.
That low end is still a quarter of the potential, like low end of that original two. Like I can't even of the margin. I mean, like that's still a significant number. And the fact that if you're looking at there's 67 counties across Pennsylvania, is that what I'm understanding?
That's
so
right,
if he
yeah.
saw something in 3, and in his experience and wealth of knowledge, 3 was enough for him to go, that shouldn't happen in 3. Let me look at all 67. That means that would happen stuck out more than a sore thumb. That's interesting.
See, I think that's a significant number because we've covered the Heritage Foundation at length. They are number 1 on my shit list right now. And they even admitted, because they claimed that they closely watch election fraud in over 40 years, they probably didn't even find 10% of what you just said, the 25,000. You know what I mean? I can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but you know what I'm saying, though? So the fact that there is this high of a number is extremely concerning, especially when somebody who claims to be watching election fraud for decades has only found quite literally a handful of cases. So I think this is definitely.
And in our view as Election Truth Alliance, that is more than enough for us to say this justifies an audit. This justifies an audit. We should. There are officials that have the authority. The Secretary of the Commonwealth in Pennsylvania has the ability to initiate an audit, and then there's other ways to get there through the courts as well. But that is a significant number no matter what. And obviously it's not an exact science. And that's why auditing is important, right? Like the point is not to accuse. The point is not to be specious about what we're saying here. The point is this is a worry and we think it is worth auditing.
Right. Just to verify. And again, I mean, it's worth pointing out that they could do an audit and find out everything is okay.
Wouldn't that be great? I would love that. That's a great outcome.
And then we could finally put this to bed. But I think this is worth pursuing to put it to bed once and for all. Do we have secure elections or do we not? Because I know we also have on here, because I know a lot of people want to know about Elon Musk and Starlink and how they could possibly be involved in something like this. The one thing I can say is this would require people with hacking skills, technical know-how, obviously sometimes apparently very little, but this would also require a massive amount of money. Money. And I'm sorry,
Jeremy, I feel like I know where you're going with this.
Right. Somebody had just a ridiculous amount of money dumped into their campaign. And I mean, but again, you can't pull this off without money and both the technical know-how.
Let's have a short bit of fun before, because I got to tell you, I could listen to this all day. It's fascinating, and we are going to literally get more of it. But I want to hear of what's happening right now, what's going on that is actionable information, because we can speculate all we want. So I want to go through a couple of things that have caused Jeremy and I to go, that's weird, that's strange, and also have a little bit of fun with speculation before we dive into the facts of what are going on. So, and opinions, chime in, because this is just some dumb stuff that we've been thinking for a while. So I showed this one earlier and Jeremy talked about it. We've been talking about this forever. Democrats did better than Harris down ballot, providing a glimmer of hope. Sure, great. Democrats minimalized Senate losses and created possible gains in House, leaving key questions. Why did Harris and GOP candidates underperform? That's diametrically opposed. Why did Democrats win Senate races in so many states Trump won? Well, you basically got a red president and down ballot, blue one. Why? Well, we talked about the swing states, right? There is, and I know I am completely exaggerating, I'm going to just go out on a limb and say there's very little statistical possibility that Donald Trump won all of the swing states. I don't see it. And we're talking about from watching people leading up to it, watching rallies, watching voter turnout, and also, no, there's no way that was a big flip. But if
this was a huge red flag for me.
It was, if the numbers say, then that's what happened. We're not going to dispute numbers. We might have theories and we might have opinions, but whatever the numbers say. Now, here's a good speculation, because I think we all know that if there's some things going on with hacking, there's probably a good suspect. That's Jeremy and I speaking. None of you. We're not going to speak for you. So, fact check. Was Elon Musk's Starlink used to rig the U.S. election? Did the tech billionaire really use satellite-based tech to steal the election for Donald Trump? No. Voting equipment is not typically connected to the internet. Okay, great. Some social media users have found an explanation for Vice President Harris's loss. They say billionaire Elon Musk, Starlink technology manipulated votes. That is just the easy answer. I'm sorry. As much as I'd love it, that's the easy answer. But there is some traction, I guess. Newsweek's reporting that Democrats call for an investigation of Donald Trump's vote counting computer's remark. Now, this was published back in January, but it's still of note that people are talking about it and have been talking about it. The Democratic congressman has called for an investigation after Donald Trump described Elon Musk's knowledge of Pennsylvania voting machines as the reason he won the state. During a rally in Washington on Sunday, Trump said Musk had an advanced understanding of the voting machines used in Pennsylvania, a swing state that was key to Trump's victory in November. Quote, he knows those computers better than anybody. Hold on a minute. Certainly not better than the people who created them and programmed them. Anyway, those vote counting computers, Trump told the crowd, and we ended up winning Pennsylvania like in a landslide. Maybe don't say the thing out loud, but
maybe
that's leading us into where we are tonight. Kamala Harris voters erased in Rockland. New York lawsuit to probe vanishing ballots. What we know so far. Okay. Here's a Newsweek article from a couple of days ago. 2024 election results under scrutiny as lawsuit advances. Smart Legislation, the action arm of Smart Elections, the nonpartisan watchdog group, filed the lawsuit over voting discrepancies in Rockland County, New York. Judge Rachel Tanguay of the New York Supreme Court ruled in open court in May that the allegations were serious enough for discovery to proceed. So something's fishy. Let's see what's out there. The lawsuit could renew debate about the 2024 election, though it won't change the outcome since Congress has certified the election. That's an interesting point. Even if we prove it, will anything happen? I don't know.
It's hard to say. Hard to say at this point. But
it's unprecedented, at least.
Do you want some details about that? About
I was going to say, please
fill us in. Details. It's your show now.
As much data as we can possibly take.
That's our lawsuit that the Newsweek article is referring to. There's actually 2 articles in Newsweek about that, and also more about some other research we did about this testing lab called ProVNV. So I don't know if we have time to get into that, but we can certainly start with the lawsuit.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just going to say, because I know people don't always watch until the end, but lawsuits are expensive. And we are raising $100,000 right now to try to pay for the lawsuit. So if you're interested in this, and if you're interested in supporting this, please do go to the website, smartelections.us, and please do make a donation. It's tax deductible, because we really, really do need your support. So thanks so much. And with that, I'll give you some information about it. I think I had given you the slides that we had.
Is it this one you wanted me to pull up, or is it the other one?
So no, I think this is a good one to start with. So don't be freaked out. It looks complicated, probably less complicated than Dr. Mebane's work. When you start to dig into this, it's actually fairly straightforward. So the first thing maybe is just to explain to people what drop-off is. And I actually probably should have put up our website initially. I think I can share my screen if I have I have this queued up on our website. Are you seeing that? Let me see.
I don't see it.
Let me try again. I'd just like you to see maybe the website. Yeah, there we go. That's what I wanted to show you.
Nope, sorry.
Website up for a minute.
It dropped off. I'm sorry. Could you add it one more time for me, please?
Oh
yeah.
Let me just try one more time.
I must accidentally.
There it is.
Yep. All right, I will add it to the stage
Okay.
now. Here we go.
Right. So one of the things that Lily was talking about is that we started this work immediately after the election because there were immediate reports coming out, actually initially from a security expert named Stephen Spoonamore, and we wanted to validate whether or not what he was saying was accurate. And so we went to work immediately. We have a data team with quite a few data analysts and just people with a certain amount of data skills, and we pulled down the election results as Lily had said in 17 different states, and we compared the top of the ticket, that would be the president's race, with the down ballot race, and we wanted to see the difference. And I think, Jeremy, you were talking about this earlier. It was one of the things that concerned you. And what we found over and over again is that on the Republican side, Trump was what we call overperforming. So you see that big red bar on the left, that's in the swing states. So that's the number of votes in all of the swing states that President Trump got that were more than the Republican down ballot candidate, which is usually like maybe the Senate race, sometimes the attorney general or the governor. But it's you would think of those two races as going generally hand in hand. Generally, the president might get a few votes more than a down ballot race, but to have someone so overperforming in such an exaggerated way
was the other thing. I'm sorry, that was the other thing that bothered me. Some of these ballots, it seemed like they voted for Trump and then nobody else.
It's hard to say until you actually get into the cast vote record or actually see the actual paper ballots or the digital ballot images. It's one reason that we've asked for a full hand recount in Rockland County. But what you see with that big, tall red bar is an overperformance by Donald Trump over and above his Republican counterpart, his Republican senator. And then what you see on the left in that little tiny blue bar there. Are you seeing my cursor? I don't know if you can or not.
I don't believe so, no.
It's not showing up. But on the left, that little bar that actually goes down below the zero line, that's because in race after race, this was in the 6 of the swing states that we looked at, Kamala Harris was actually getting less votes than the down ballot Democratic candidate. So usually, again, the Senate.
Doesn't make sense.
And in New York, it was quite extreme. And so we looked at the New York races in particular because we had some context here. I live in New York, and there were some other anomalies that we found in addition to this. So just to be clear, this is what drop-off means. Drop-off means we're measuring the difference between the presidential performance and the down-ballot performance. And on the Republican side, it's positive. There's an over-performance by the president. And on the Democratic side, it's negative. The president is getting less votes than the Democratic Senate candidate or the Democratic down ballot candidate. It doesn't
That's
quite
not
make
going to
sense.
happen.
It's just unclear why Kamala Harris would have gotten so fewer votes in state after state after state. She actually did not do that much worse than Donald Trump in the overall numbers. She got 1.4% less than Trump in the overall national numbers. So it doesn't quite correlate. It just doesn't make sense. So then when we went into Rockland County, we found some extreme numbers in Rockland County. So can you pull up the next one, Jeremy? That was the one with all the dots. Yeah, this one that I want to show you. So what we did here, or what a statistician that we worked with did, is he compared the drop-off from 2020 with the drop-off from 2024. And what we found, if you look at those straight lines, those are trend lines. The little dots are each individual district, what the drop-off is. And the red little circles are the Republican drop-off, and the little blue circles are the Democratic drop-off. So now the zero line is going to be where your down-ballot candidate is. So if it's below zero, that means the presidential vote is below the down-ballot candidate. And if it's up above zero, then the presidential candidate is above the down-ballot candidate. Whoa. And then what you're going to see here, if you look at this, you're going to see that in 2024 and in 2020, Trump was always above the down ballot Republican. See, there's a red line that's straight and a red line that's jagged. Those are if you look at your little legend there, 2024 red is Trump, in 2024, and 2024 jagged is Trump in 2020. He's performing about the same, right? You see those two lines, they're almost on top of each other.
Yep.
Then, and he's well above the down ballot, well above zero, well above the down ballot candidate. If you look at the blue jagged line, that's Biden in 2020. He is also well above the down ballot. And both of those are typical. It's typical that the president gets more votes than the down ballot race.
But how is she down there?
When you look at 2024 Democratic, that's the straight blue line, and you see that it's below zero. And this is very, very irregular. If you look at the text, this is not typical. And in particular, it's not typical in comparison to the 2020 performance. In 2020, Biden was well above the down ballot candidate. And in 2024, Harris is below the down ballot. And the statistician actually calculated the likelihood of that. And it's a p-value of 0. A p-value of 0 is crazy for anybody who follows statistics. P-value is the probability value. We're measuring the likelihood of whether that result in 2024 is a naturally organic occurring result. And the p-value means the probability is 0. That means the likelihood is literally non-existent, that that's an organic result. These are remarkable analyses when you're getting this type of difference. And these are not just the areas. There were areas where Kamala Harris got 0 votes. And I don't want to get into that too much because it's actually pretty complicated. Right. It also possibly has to do with the Hasidic vote in those communities. But these communities where we did this analysis, there is no Hasidic vote to speak of to explain this unusual down ballot vote. And what I want you to really think about is that Trump is doing the same pretty much in 2020 and 2024.
Yeah, he doesn't move.
So if his vote isn't changing, then why is the Democratic vote dropping so much? Where are her votes going? That is really the question. Biden is up here. Trump is up here. Where are Harris's votes going if the Republican votes are staying the same? It just doesn't make any sense. So that is some of the data that we have on Rockland County. That is where we have filed a lawsuit. We are challenging the results of the presidential and the U.S. Senate race in Rockland County. We've asked for a full hand recount, and the judge has said that is possibly on the table. We are moving forward with that understanding. We have to wait and see, but so far, so good.
I think that's one thing that's, I'm sorry, Mike, but I just want to say that's probably something that's bothered everybody in America is the fact that we haven't had have we had one single hand recount of anywhere?
There was a hand recount in Pennsylvania of the Senate. But they
but they called it off.
Partial. They called it off.
There's too many ballots. We're done. We can't do it.
And just to be clear, there are probably hand recounts of smaller races around the country. There are hand recounts on a regular basis of very, very close races, but not generally speaking of most races.
Here's a good question. What's the prognosis for recounts in all 7 states, 7 swing states? Could this, I know we're so far away from it matriculating into any sort of actionable thing nationwide, but is there a potential for this to mean anything other than shit? We knew it.
If I may, I would just make a small note about language, which is not, I think, the intent of the question, but just I'll clarify that the term recount is often used as something that happens kind of right after or within a certain period of time after an election. And so if you hear people saying that, the period of time for a recount has been passed or something like that, that's in relation to that after the election, there's a period of time for those recounts to occur either by hand or by machine. However, things like ballot inspections and audits, my understanding is that those ballots are retained for 22 months, and that is the requirement federally. And so and that there is, generally speaking, there's often 2 paths. It varies state by state. What I think that you'll find is that in the United States, all of this varies very much state by state for who has the authority to do what and what the specific laws are. But for calling an audit to occur, there's often 2 paths. One is that there's someone in government, like a Secretary of State, who has the authority to say, I'm concerned, I've seen enough, I'm going to ask an audit to happen, or going through the courts and seeking to have a recount be declared necessary by a judge. And so I would say that the answer to that question is probably more complex, even when we're thinking about those audits and ballot inspections, because I think a lot of it has to do obviously with the different dynamics in each state. But frankly, I think the biggest factor is how much do people call for this? How much do people make it so that this is a political or a practical reality or requirement in these different states to address the outcry? That's my thinking, at least.
So then my question kind of from earlier is coming back. We know we're not going to get a certain segment of the population to listen anyways. I get it. There are a lot of people that would. But here's the problem. How do you get people to truly understand this data? How do we turn that into something that means something to maybe someone who didn't vote and is now like, wow, this is scary? Or maybe someone who's like, wow, I voted, but there's no way. How do we make people understand this in a way that is shiny?
I think Brandy is a big part of that. Like, Brandy has been breaking it down for people in a really comprehensible way and making it accessible, answering questions. And, we need hundreds of Brandies, thousands of Brandies, if more people want to jump in. I would say one of the things I love about Brandy is that she really does try to stick to the facts. She will literally just read one of our press releases or read things off the website, because I know we all try to be really meticulous with the information. Just how, like Lily was saying, Dr. Mebane is so careful and he'll use one word and not another word. And that's because sometimes when you use a different word, you actually might change the meaning. Where she said recount and audit, those actually are two different, completely legal actions. So that's why one of the things I love about Brandy is that she really does try to be very meticulous with the facts. And when people are reporting on this, we would love it if you literally would just use the exact language that we're putting on our website or putting in our press releases, because we're very meticulous about the language.
That is great to know, because, as two goofballs who try and find a way to put dark humor into this crazy world we're living in right now, it's easy for us to say, we're reporting the facts, but then we maybe aren't as careful with the language we use, and that
we're
be
definitely
interpreted differently. That could change the meaning. So now we have to look and go, all right, if we're reporting a thing, a specific piece of information, we got to stick to the verbiage that was supplied. We can't paraphrase it. We can't try and make it sound like something different, inadvertently screwing up the message.
And even the press, often, I will say, it's painful to me, they often get it wrong. And I'm a former member of the press. I worked in network news for like 20 years. So I know that there is a big effort there in the media often to get things right, but they still do kind of, there often are mistakes. And one of the things, like just in the slides that you were showing, where they said the voting machines aren't connected to the internet. And so, of course, we couldn't have had any foul play in that regard. Many of the voting machines are connected to the internet, and it's repeated to us over and over again. The voting machines, they're not connected. They're not connected. In some cases, they are. One of the things about them is that many of them do have modems in them, or they're connected to routers. Like a Cisco router is an actual component part that is listed with the voting machines in the list of approved equipment from the election. The EAC, the Election
Assistance Commission.
Election Assistance Commission. Thank you so much. Yeah. So they list a Cisco router. Generally speaking, it might be behind a firewall. It's probably behind a firewall, but then there are always ways to spoof a firewall and get through a firewall. But those systems at different points, they are connected to the internet. Many of them have what they call consumer off-the-shelf systems. That's COTS. And those consumer off-the-shelf systems almost always come with modems. So they might be in the voting machines, and maybe the modems are toggled off. Doesn't mean they can't be toggled on. And then some of the states actually use those modems to transmit the election results. And I know in
that
Wisconsin,
could be intercepted.
I know in Florida, they actually have modems in the voting machines, which are used for that purpose. And they will say things like, well, there's no way that somebody else could get access to those. But that's what hackers do. That's what I learned by going to that hackers do things that they're not supposed to do.
That's literally their job.
That's their job, right? Exactly. So some of the verbiage that you get, not from our website, I think we're really careful on our Substack, on our website, in our press releases to be very meticulous. But in the press, you will sometimes see things that are not actually accurate, and that was just an example.
We have a couple of good questions, Jeremy. I was going to bring a couple up if you want to say something.
Yeah, I actually had a question. What would be the likelihood if, say, somebody were to gain access to the voting machines prior to the election? Because I think a lot of people are focused on hacking during the election,
They
but
think
have
it's
not
all
yet
clickety
considered,
clacky.
right, have not considered, because I don't know anything about how voting machines are maintained between elections. You know what I mean? Is there a possibility that that is the scenario, or am I just reaching
Are
here?
they locked up in a safe, or they kept in a public storage that you could, like, hairpin it?
If I may, I think Lulu probably knows more about this than I ever could, but I will point people to a wonderful, wonderful resource, which actually references someone who you mentioned, Lulu, earlier, J. Alex Halderman, who you mentioned, he has become one of the preeminent experts in election security for machinery in the United States. This is evident by the fact that he gave expert testimony to a bipartisan U.S. Senate committee on Russian interference in the 2016 election about exactly this topic. What are the avenues and the ways that you can interfere with machines? And it's one of the, in my opinion, well, and he has some of, I think, the best, clearest language. It is so straightforward, to the effect of, under the hood, tabulators and voting machines are computers. They are susceptible to the same things that computers are. They're often out of date. And one of the things that he mentions in that expert testimony, we have it linked on the Election Truth Alliance website under other resources, but that we've web archived it because they've been taking down some of those sites that speak to this for the U.S. Senate site. But there is a really good point where he talks about there are a lot of things that can happen. Like, what if you compromise a vendor? There's really only so many vendors in the United States for different kinds of machines. You could conceptually have a massive, security breach or issue that even theoretically the vendor didn't know about. And I would just also add that, we know because of court filings that came out of places like Georgia in 2021, 2022, that there were very significant security breaches wherein bad actors had access for 3.5 years to the software, the machinery for tabulators, voting machines, electronic poll books, everything. And if you know a hacker, like, what can you do if you have the tech and the software for 3.5 years? Like, you can do a lot. And so I just wanted to add and sort of put that out there for Dr. Halderman's testimony, because it's in my opinion, it's one of the best, clearest pieces on this. But I do want to give space as well for Lulu to hear anything that you wanted to add on that topic.
I'd love to. I put another website up there if you could grab it, Jeremy. Do you see that?
Ooh.
Yeah. So this is the Substack that we did in February that actually just started getting a lot of traction. A bunch of people read it and interpreted it. And there's some interpretations that really are stretching the bounds, but even you don't really need to stretch the bounds. The actual facts are actually sort of horrifying enough. So this is, Lily was talking about testing labs. There's actually only 2 testing labs that test both the voting machines and the software updates. And one of them is called ProVNV. And ProVNV is actually the testing lab that does the most testing, most of the heavy lifting. So like in 2024, they did 21 software and firmware updates, whereas the other lab, which is called SLI, I think only did 4 or 5 updates. So most of the updates are from ProVNV. And what we found was that their website was literally disintegrating. This is literally the front page of their website in February. It said, "Hello, world. Welcome to WordPress. This is your first post. Edit or delete it, then start writing." It's like a 13-year-old blogger had hacked their website and then gone to sleep. So, and it was up like this for this particular problem was up like that for days, but we had actually been tracking their website for weeks. It had been actually disintegrating, where all of the internal links, the front page had looked okay for a while, but every link that you clicked on was just an error message. All of their back pages were error messages. And then before I did the Substack, I actually went back and took a look at the website in the archive, in the Internet Archive. And I don't know if you can see this. I might need to maybe blow it up a little bit, but this is like July 9th, Can you see that? Their front page was just a total error message. That was in July of 2024. So from July of 2024 to February of 2025, one of the only 2 companies that tests voting machines in the country was literally disintegrating. It was just a series of error messages. And then we went and started to look at the actual updates that they had done. They did updates on all of the major voting systems throughout the country in 2024. We had found 4 at that time, and then we went back recently after all the press and we found 21 total. But in this post, we talked about 4. So this one they were in March. I think we have the dates, like from March to September of 2024. This one was on all of these different Dominion systems. These are, if you know Dominion, these are most of the Dominion systems, 5.5, 5.5, 5.6, 5.10, all the way up through 5.17, 5.19. That's most of the Dominion systems. And then if you look at, they also did most of the ES&S systems. This was an update that went to all of these. This is EVS. That's it's the EVS system. It's ES&S, election systems and software, is one of the, it can get a little bit confusing. There's 2 major voting machine vendors. That's ES&S and Dominion. Then there's 2 testing labs who test the voting machines of ES&S and Dominion. So I hope you're still with me.
Yep.
So this particular update went to almost all of the ES&S machines. You see this election systems and software, and then you have all these different versions. That's many, many of the versions of the ES&S systems. This is a company that can't even keep track of its own website. How do we feel that it has robust enough security to guard the software and firmware updates for all of the voting machines, or most of the voting machines throughout
I'm getting nauseous.
One thing that I do want to clarify here is that there was another Substacker who sort of took this information and ran with it, and then a bunch of other websites took it and ran with it, and they keep saying that these changes were made to the voting machines in secret and that no one knew. And that's really not accurate. So there's a whole process for these updates. They are approved by the Election Assistance Commission. They have a technician who signs off on them, and there's a certificate for each one. But we don't feel that that process is robust. They were put through under what's called a de minimis process, which means there's no additional testing. And it's really just sort of a formality. Like, yeah, you think it's okay, let's go, let's do that that software update. And it's not even so much what the updates were for, although 2 of them were serious. It's just any software update, even a small software update, could contain malware.
Oh, yeah,
and
of course.
that's exactly what Jeremy was talking about. If you, I'm sorry, I don't remember which of one of you mentioned it, but you were saying if you hack the vendor, then you could plant malware in the official software update. And this is a real concern. This is actually a reality of something that could have happened and that we are really seriously concerned about.
Wow. So I hate to stop this party here, but unfortunately it has already been an hour. We have to get you guys all on again, please. If I'm understanding right, Discovery happens in the fall. Do you guys know of an exact... What is it?
We're moving forward now with Discovery. So we actually in a few days have to present them with our list for Discovery. So we'll be making that public once we have it. We're asking them for a number of things that we're hoping will help clarify whether or not, something happened. There's serious things that we're interested in looking at. We're not making that public just yet. And again, please go to the website, smartelections.us, and find out more and donate, please. This work is actually really expensive because of all the attorneys involved. And Lily, I'm sure you guys want to give your website also.
I do, yes. And I'll say electiontruthalliance.org. Please do check us out. Again, we're pursuing multiple avenues for trying to seek audits, including, the nice way where we go ask real kind, and then the way where we do go through the courts. And we've got legal teams in a few states, including Pennsylvania. Mike, I do want to just quickly answer your question because you asked it twice, and I want to give an answer to you about how do you make this content, accessible and shareable. And I'll just say that that's one of our biggest challenges because a lot of this is complex. There's trickiness to the language, to how you share it, and I would say that one of my goals is that we need to be able to communicate a lot of these key things in a 3 bullets a 30-second clip, a single image, and like a clickbait headline. Like we need to be able to condense things down without compromising the integrity of that information. And it may sound so easy to have things in 3 bullets, but it's actually extremely hard to condense things down and keep them true.
So like sidebar, my job is to like make work instructions for manufacturing. So like, trust me when I tell you, it's hard to take a whole thing and shrink it down into a manageable sentence. I get that.
Yeah, I do that.
Especially when we're talking about something like this. How do you turn all this data into, it was done, we have some numbers, trust us? Like, it doesn't work that way. It's hard to do.
Right.
And I would just say that if anyone is watching and has video editing skills to help us make some of those 30-second clips, we are recruiting. So please go check us out at the Election Truth Alliance volunteer tab on our website. Thank you very much.
I know if I had more time, if we ever, we want to get more involved in every possible way. So we are also looking for funding and sponsors and stuff like that. So I do video editing. So if there was anything I could do to help in the future, if I'm able to free up some time, because we are focusing on this all the time now, but we want to focus on it even more.
I'd love to address Kiki's question. Will there be a link to share this replay right after this? The YouTube, it just becomes a video. That's it.
Yeah. It just goes right over into our live playlist, and you can share it, watch it, comment, and sharing it on other platforms helps us. Any interactions? I mean, this is the biggest show we've had as far as live viewers at once. So I want to thank you all for that.
Yeah, thank you,
Brandy. I have a feeling you helped make that happen. You were making videos about this episode today, which I really appreciate. I saw a lot of your people from TikTok were in the comments, I'm assuming.
Yeah, no,
they're very supportive of you.
I just want to say thank you, like, for having me on. Like, I really wanted to get this information out there, and I wanted to have both Lulu and someone, like, basically just someone from each part be here, because both of them are doing very different things, but everyone's kind of coming to the same conclusion here that something is off. Something is off about this.
It is. And like I said, we're not saying anything crazy like, oh my God, now we have proof that the election was, whatever. We're not saying that. All we're saying is if there is a problem, we would like to know if we do live in a free and fair election or a democracy that's to be determined here in the near future. But if we are going to have elections in the future, we need to make sure that they are in fact secure. So if this did happen, we can not let it happen again. Absolutely. Or what's the point of democracy? What's the point of elections if we can't guarantee that it's 100% secure? So this is definitely something worth pursuing, and I appreciate all 3 of you for doing what you're doing. I think you're providing
anytime. We'd love updates. We'd love to know what's going on. We'd love to follow this.
ETA has merch. If anybody wants to represent the ETA, there is merch out. You can get a T-shirt.
Yep, on the website.
You have merch.
Who doesn't like merch?
Everyone loves merch. I think our volunteers have gone for the first round of merch buying. They were so excited, but everyone else is welcome to join too. We do indeed have merch.
Absolutely.
And really quick, everyone really looks smart because you guys have donated I think now a little over $50,000 in like 2 weeks. Wow. So if you guys keep that up, I think that they will get to the goal by September. So please keep donating to them. Every dollar helps.
We're so grateful. Amazing. We're on our way. We're at 58,000 in 17 days. So it's going up. Thank you to everybody. So many people are donating even multiple times. So many people are sharing the information. We're incredibly grateful. And we're going to be putting that money to good use.
#, dollar for democracy.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that is all we have for today's episode. I promised you this is going to be a good one. I learned a lot. I'm sure Mike can say the same thing. We hope you learned a lot as well.
I gotta process this.
Yeah, this is going to take me a while to run through, because I'll watch the show again afterwards.
Yeah, but the problem is the facts are there, the data's there. It's like coming to terms with the not the implication, because that then makes you feel like you're going to head towards a comment that you might not want to make. That's an exaggeration, but it lets you see that there's something that needs to be looked into for the sake of democracy and for the sake of saving our country, which is currently at risk. And this is the work that needs to be done, that is going to be, unfortunately, probably thankless and historically critical. So I thank you two for doing what you do. Brandy, thank you for bringing all of this to our attention.
Yes, please. Thank you. I mean,
Pleasure to be
please,
here with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
yeah,
thank
I'm
you,
glad I had a
everyone. I'm
really
so
good
glad.
time. So everybody, again, I will be on tomorrow doing our live news recap at 6 p.m. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of news coming our way tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. I'll post the link for that sometime in the morning. Love you all. Thank you all for the support. Ladies, thank you so much for all the information. I really appreciate your time. And other than that, everybody have a good night. We love you, and we'll talk to you soon.